Greetings, and welcome to other episode of the AlonzoBash Podcast. Real people, real conversations. In this special episode, we welcome one of the true pioneers of Caribbean music, Mr. Cornell Fingaz Phillip, widely recognized as the Godfather of Bouyon music and one of the original creators of the genre. In this rare and exclusive conversation, Mr. Phillip takes listeners back to the birth of Bouyon music, explaining how he and his fellow musicians blended Dominica's traditional folk rhythms with modern electronic instruments to create an entirely new Caribbean sound. He shares the inspiration behind the movement, the creative process, and the cultural influences that shaped what has become one of the region's most influential genres. Mr. Phillip also addresses long-standing misconceptions about the relationship between Bouyon and Soca, offering first-hand insight into what makes each genre unique. He recounts the formation of the legendary WCK band, later renamed Windward Caribbean Kulture, revealing how the band's groundbreaking sound revolutionized Dominican music and left a lasting impact on Caribbean music around the world. Beyond the music, this episode is a celebration of Dominica's rich history, culture, and resilient people. Mr. Phillip reflects on the island's traditions, identity, and the importance of preserving its cultural legacy for future generations. This is more than an interview. It's a masterclass in Caribbean music history, told by one of the visionaries who lived it and helped shape it. If you love Caribbean culture, music, and authentic storytelling, this is an episode you won't want to miss. Real people, real conversations. AlonzoBash Podcast starts now.
Greetings and welcome to AlonzoBash Podcast. I'm your host, AlonzoBash. And of course, today, man, we're joined with another excellent episode. We have a living legend. He's known as the Godfather of Bouyon music. Without further ado, Mr. Conrad Phillip. Welcome, sir.
Hi, good night, good night, good night. First of all, it's Bouyon, not Bouillon.
Well, you know what? I just was going to ask you. I was like, man, did I mess it up? Did I mess it up? Bouyon.
Bouillon.
Bouyon.
Yeah, the N is silent. It's Bouillon.
Bouyon. Bouyon.
Right.
I had a feeling I would have messed it up, but I have you here to help me. So I'm
Well,
good.
that's what we're here for. That's what we're here for.
Exactly. Well, first and foremost, man, welcome. Listen, I've been trying to reach you, and I told this when I first met you, not for a long time, but what it was,
Right,
I traveled to St. Martin recently in May,
right,
and I had I guess you could call it a mini music conference that pretty much came together. And I spoke to,
right.
you probably still know some of these guys, Skillful Band, the young brothers there, King Vaughn, and all these different guys, and I was asking them, what
Right.
is the actual song of
Of
St.
Bouillon.
Martin, right?
Okay.
Yeah, what's the actual song of St. Martin? Because, St. Martin music, it sounds like a little bit of Dominican, a little bit of, it seems like a mixture of a lot. So,
In recent times, I think
mm,
Dominica had a major influence on the style.
yes.
But yeah. Before it was a little. Before I hear a song from Saint Martin and knew it was from Saint Martin. But
Mm,
right now, when you hear a song from Saint Martin, you wonder if it's really from Saint Martin or if it's from Dominica. But the fusion is all over the place right now.
yeah. Yeah, so pretty much it came down to that because, like you said, it's a lot of influence with their song there, St. Martin.
Right.
But nevertheless, well, let's get into your story. So, understand, you were born in Dominica. Let's start with that.
Yes, born and raised in Dominica.
All right. What's the name of the community exactly?
Roseau. I'm from the
Bozo.
capital, Roseau. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Now, I'm ashamed to say, and it's on my list, I've never been to Dominica.
Okay, so right now I'm inviting you to come either at the end of October for the Creole Festival, or
Okay,
you skip
October.
Trinidad Carnival and you come
Eh,
over to Dominica for Carnival. Trust me, you'll love it.
so the Dominica Carnival is when exactly?
The same as Trinidad, February, March.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah,
Because you mentioned Creole Festival. Well,
right.
we're gonna get into all of that. So tell me about Dominica. For someone else like myself, I've never been to Dominica.
Um,
What can one expect going to Dominica? What Dominica is known for? Also?
Dominica is best known outside there as the nature isle of the Caribbean, and it's definitely true to that name because we are very mountainous, we are very green,
Yes.
we have many rivers. They claim that we have 365 rivers, a river
Okay.
for every day of the year.
Nice.
I haven't seen the 365 yet. Hopefully, I'll get to that now.
Maybe it's
But
one river that cut into sections.
yeah. But we have a lot of springs, We have a lot of
Mm,
springs that, water spout out from the ground. We have no idea where it originates from and it
nice.
creates a river, So we have a lot of of these, And
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very green, it's very mountainous. Some may say it's very unspoiled, which is a blessing and a curse, at the
Yes.
same time, because
Mm.
if you're looking for a developed country, Dominica is not the developed country of the
Right, right,
Caribbean.
right, right.
But if you're looking for natural resources and nature
Mhm.
and everything original, everything organic,
Nice,
that is
nice.
Dominica for you. That is
Mm.
Dominica.
Yeah, I understand also the population is rather small. I think it's under like
Yeah.
75,000, 80,000.
No, 71. 71, and it could be lower,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Mm.
man, it could be lower, but average 71,000.
Yes, yes. What's the national dish or what's the main dish? Like Trinidad, when you reach Trinidad, you must have a doubles. When you reach, when you reach Dominica, what you must have? What's
What
the
is the
dish?
national dish? Before the national dish used to be mountain chicken,
Okay.
which was which
Is,
was
is that
a
yard
frog.
fall? Is that no, never mind, disregard.
Yeah, mountain chicken, but it was actually a frog. It was a very delicious
Oh, okay.
dish. But we had some problems with some parasites coming
Mhm.
into onto the island through hot
Okay.
staying and stuff like that, and
Mm.
it kind of poisoned the national dish of Dominica, the
Oh
mountain
man.
chicken. So we had to change it.
Yeah.
I shame on me. I'm not too sure what is the national dish of Dominica right now. I think I heard titiwi.
Okay.
Titiwi is a very, very, very small fish, probably an inch long, that you get in the fresh water in the rivers.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, I think that is the national dish. I'm not too sure. Shame on me.
Well, I should say what's the most popular dish? Maybe.
The most popular
Yeah.
dish.
Mm.
Wow. I don't know. We have a lot of nice dishes in Dominica.
So,
Pilau comes to mind.
okay. Okay.
Um,
Ground
you
food and
have,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we have a lot of ground food. We have a lot of hard food.
Yes.
We pride ourselves in our meats like
Mm.
agouti, maniku,
Okay. Okay.
chicken, rabbit.
Eh,
We even have a rabbit fest. We have a chicken
wow.
fest. We have a goat fest.
Mm.
And fish.
Fish is
We
a
we
big
love
thing.
our fish. But
Yeah.
Dominica can be regarded when it comes to food. We are a nation of the soil.
Yes. Yes.
Soil and the natural resources that we have.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of similarities when it comes to the food, like Trinidad.
Right.
I
Yeah.
guess we will
Yeah.
call it wild meat. Yeah. All right. Nice, nice, nice. So you mentioned Creole Festival. I'm gonna get back into your family structure real quickly, but I definitely want to
Right.
touch base on these things since we're talking about, Dominica and some of the great things about the island. So
Right.
Creole Festival is a big festival. Since I was small, I hear about this Creole Festival in Dominica.
Creole
Now, what?
Festival started in 1995 or 1996, and we have been
Mm,
hosting the Creole Festival every year, and it's getting bigger, 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 bigger. And the main purpose was to really expose the local talent to outside experiences, different genres and stuff like that. And it has grown, it has grown, it has grown over the years to the point where people, I mean, I think the Creole Festival had a lot to do with the success of Bouyon music. I think more than 50% of the attendees coming to the Creole Festival right now come for
yes.
Bouyon music.
Okay, nice, nice. All right, nice. All right, so you were born in Dominica. You come from a big family. Tell me about your
Yes.
mom. Tell me about your mom and tell me about your dad. What your mom and your
Um,
dad is like.
my father, I'm the last of 11,
Yes.
right? And
Mm,
my father, he was falling ill by the time I was born.
mm,
So we I know my father, but yet I didn't have a chance to really enjoy my childhood with my father because he was
yeah.
always sick, if
Okay.
it's not a
Okay.
stroke, it's
Mm,
something, But he was always a strict dad.
mm.
I always knew him to some people said he had a temper. I never experienced it.
Yeah. 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 It was a
But
baby.
I guess being a father, you have to have
Yeah.
a strong hand, especially when you have a family of 11,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm the last of 11,
Mm. So you just
and he also he played, I think he was a multi-instrumentalist,
okay.
and again, too, I never got to hear him play.
Yes.
And my mother, she's also from not much of a musical family as my father, but yes,
Mm,
she had some musical background.
yes.
Again, too, I'm the last of 11, so I didn't really get to experience them in that light.
Yes. Yes.
You understand? But I had a good upbringing. I had a very sheltered
Oh
upbringing, I
yeah.
should say. And I'm grateful for that. I mean, it made
Yeah.
me the man that I am today. You
Mhm.
know, I wasn't one of those that would run the streets. I would run the streets, but not in a bad way. You
Yes.
understand?
Yes. Yes.
So never did drugs, never did, these kind of things, alcohol
Mm.
and stuff like that. And I pride that on my upbringing.
Nice. 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 All right. So 11 siblings. The mix, like, what's the ratio? Boys, girls.
Seven boys and four girls.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
And understand everyone plays an instrument.
Yes, everyone played.
Wow.
Everyone played. If actually I could, everyone played. I never
Mm.
got to hear everyone play
Yeah.
because by the time I was born, a lot of them had already left the family home.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
like I know my brother Carol, who is deceased right now. He played
Okay.
guitar.
Condolences. Mm.
And Ashton also played guitar. He's deceased also, and
Okay.
Ashton is the one that really. He's the one that that started to market Bouyon music
Mm.
in the mid to late 1990s.
Okay. Okay.
And I have another brother, Steven, who also played sax. I never
Yes.
got to hear him play. I knew
Mm.
he played,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and all of us played something, and
Mm.
even when they got married, the people that they got married to also played instruments.
Oh wow. So
Like my sister Valina later, who
yes.
was a musical instructor, got married to Norman later, who also was a musician who managed the one of the biggest bands in Dominica in the 60s, 70s.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So the background, the musical background in the family is vast, very
Mm.
vast.
Very vast. You mentioned some of your siblings, even their spouses, was involved in music
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
And I think the same goes for you as well. I understand your wife is an artist.
My wife is an artist. Yeah, she's a singer.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Actually, I met her right in this room.
Really?
We were practicing for a Cadas festival, and that's
Uh-huh.
when I first saw her, and that's where we met. And surprisingly, that's where we live.
Wow,
Simply,
wow.
that's where we live because this is the family house. I'm the
Yes.
only sibling remaining in the family house. So
Oh, okay,
it's a
okay.
very big house. So she's
Mm.
right on the other side there. That is where we rehearse. That's where
Wow,
Bouyon music was born.
wow.
Born. That's where
Man,
Bouyon
so,
music
so,
was born.
so you pretty much where you are right now, that could be a museum moving forward,
Yep.
in your
I
later
actually call
years.
it the House of Bouyon.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow,
I
man.
actually
Listen,
call it the House of Bouyon.
I definitely, yeah, I'm definitely, so I'm due to go to well, it's supposed to be a solution this weekend actually, but that's a
Man,
different
come
story.
over. Take the ferry and come over, my brother.
Yeah. So
Trust
wait,
me.
there's a ferry that goes from Dominica to St. Lucia?
Yeah.
Oh,
Forward.
shoot. I mean,
Yeah, man.
say less, say less, say less, say less.
Just tell me when you come in. Once I'm on island, I
Yes.
can host you, my brother.
Well, give thanks, man. I really, really, now I'm excited, man. Interview is over, man. Oh, man. But that's great. That's great. All right. So as a young boy, I understand at age 13, he was already playing instruments. And around that time, when did when did you, when did you realize, like, you know what, I really have a talent for music? At that young age, 13?
No, man, it was much younger than that.
Wow.
It was much younger than that because, I
Mm.
mean, there was always music in the house,
Yeah, yeah.
and my brother Irvin, I would always sit on his lap growing up and he would be playing songs from, what's his name, Stevie Wonder, and
Yeah.
he'd be playing the piano and I'd be singing on his lap and
Mm.
stuff like that. And you're talking about the probably late 70s, early 80s,
Yeah, yeah.
and so I started at a very, very, very young age. I would say, I mean, I was hitting the ivories before I started to go to school. I guess I was hitting the ivories.
Okay,
You
okay.
understand? And I did one of my sisters, Valina later, she's a music instructor, so I eventually went to school at her school, but
Yep.
before that I would play I learned by ear.
Okay.
I could just listen to a song and just figure out the melody right there and just play it
Mm.
on the keyboard, and that started from very young.
Yes, yes.
So it was I started very young at around age 11, 12, 13, 14. That is when I really started to be influenced by the different traditional rhythms of Dominica and being influenced by soca music. Well, I wouldn't say influenced, but that's when I started to hear these things, or even later than that.
Right.
You know, but there was always music in the house. There was always music in the house. My brother Ashton, he had a song system which was right here, which was based right here in the house.
Yes.
You know, and there's a lot of history. There's a lot of history here.
Yeah, a lot of history. I've done some research as well, and you know, I've learned so much just learning about yourself and
Right.
Dominica. You know, Dominica has done a really great job of preserving their culture, the African culture, especially from slavery to modern
Right.
times, just within the music. Because understand, even with the and I will let you elaborate, the creation of Bouyon,
Right.
Bouyon music came from those original sounds, and give me some of the names of
The
the
traditional rhythms.
the traditional rhythms.
Jimping,
Mhm,
Bele,
mhm,
Mazouk, Quadrille, you know. Probably y'all in Trinidad share these similar. Actually, I went to Trinidad for Carifesta some years ago, and they took us somewhere in the countryside, and they were actually playing Jimping music. They called it something else, but it was really Jimping music. To us,
Okay,
it was Jimping
okay,
music, and we
okay.
were wowed by that, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, we come from the same ancestry.
Yes,
We
yes,
share the
yes.
same DNA, you
Mm.
know. But yeah, the traditional rhythms were. I don't know if we had that part of the interview yet,
No,
but
hey, listen, where we wanna go?
what happened in the, I should say, the early 80s,
Yes,
the hi-fi song system, the DJ song system had basically taken over,
yes,
you
yes.
know, the airwaves. So there were
Mhm.
hardly any bands,
Right,
any
right.
popular bands. Before that, we have two genres actually. We have Kadas. I think you ever heard of Kadas music?
Yes, Kanas music, yes,
Right. We
heard
had
about
Kadas music. And then Kadas music was so big that a lot of the, I mean, probably 90% of the artists, they left Dominica to go touring, you
Okay,
know,
okay.
and they stayed out there. So most
Mm.
of these artists, they never really came back. They were not based in Dominica. They're either based in Guadeloupe, France,
Yes.
or Martinique or something
Mhm.
like that, you know?
Yes, yes.
So what happened is that because of that void in the live performance, the hi-fi took over,
Mm,
right? And seeing that my brother had a hi-fi song system, my
mm.
best friend, Keith Goddard, and myself, we had access, and me growing up, I was into the electronics and stuff like
Yes,
that.
yes, yes,
So we grew up having to, I could play around with with the equipment. And
yes.
being a musician, you'd get a little keyboard. I mean, it goes much deeper than that, yeah?
Mhm,
But I
mhm.
got probably I'd borrow a keyboard from a friend of mine,
Yeah,
Richard
yeah.
Astafan, and I just start to play the keyboard and play music. And at
Mhm.
that same time now, my next brother, Daryl Phillip, was
Okay.
a cultural officer, and he was tasked with the duty of archiving the traditional rhythms of Dominica.
Yes, yes.
So what he would do, he'd go to the countryside and he would bring down these bands right
Mhm.
here.
Right. Same
And
house.
then whilst the bands would be playing and he would be recording them, we would
Yeah.
be on the other side of the room trying to mimic what it is that they were doing. So that
Yes.
is where the Bouyon influence all started, you know, and it just started to grow and grow and grow until people eventually told us that, as I said, the story goes much deeper than that, yeah?
Yes,
But
yes.
people eventually told us that what y'all are playing is so unique that y'all
Right.
need to give it a name, y'all need to brand it, you
Mm.
know, and that is where the name Bouyon came from.
Bouillon. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So of course you addressed this and I would ask. But before you ask this question, I was one of those people that was kind of salty, honestly. I mean salty. I felt like, man, why did Dominica trying to separate themselves, you know, from soca, from, you know,
I don't think.
calypso type thing. That was my first initial when I hear, you know, the statement that was made.
Mhm, mhm.
That was my first initial. And then after I did some digging, I started to understand. I said, you know what?
Right.
I need to have this. I need this is one brother I need to talk to
You
because
see,
he's live and well and he can bring this up because this is very important. This is very, very important. So I would
first of
actually
all,
all right, go
first
ahead.
of all, one thing I
Mm,
will say, not respect to soca music. I have nothing against soca music. All right. I think the saltiness didn't come necessarily from the creators of Bouyon music or the creators of soca music per se. I think it came from the fans.
Yeah, yeah.
It came from the genuine fans of the genres. But
Hmm.
I mean, I embrace soca music.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
embrace soca music, but I know for a fact, and is nothing off the back of soca music and what soca music has done and what it stands for.
Mhm.
But it doesn't change the fact that Bouyon music started where it started.
Yes, yes.
And I mean, I have no problem in saying in giving that story because I mean it is so transparent.
Hmm.
It's right in front of us, just like soca is right in front of us, and
Yes,
all other all other genres. And I think Voice said it perfectly fine. There's enough space for all of us.
yes, yes, yes.
You understand? So
Mhm.
I mean, we share this similar DNA, we share this similar ancestry, but we unique in our own way.
Yes, yes,
You
yes,
understand? So we should be able to come on the same stage and share that same stage and just uplift each other.
yes.
Uplift soca music with Bouyon, uplift Bouyon with soca music.
Yeah,
We,
yeah.
we we should be able to do that.
Fair enough. So it's fair to say Bouyon is not soca.
Bouyon is not soca. Bouyon is not. Bouyon is not soca. I mean, as I said earlier, I have
Yeah,
full respect for soca music,
yeah,
but
mm,
I mean, it is what it is. Bouyon
yeah.
is not soca, and
Mm.
that is not a point of
To take away
tension.
from, yeah,
It would not taking away from any of the
yeah,
genres, but it's just the history of the genre.
yes,
You
yes,
understand? So I mean, and I have so much respect for soca music, and I see the same respect given back to me by other soca artists.
yes,
To Bouyon, I mean, because these soca artists they love Bouyon music.
yes. A lot of fusion
So
now, anyway.
right, a lot of fusion. And when I
Mm.
go out there and I hear how these soca artists talk about Bouyon music backstage and how they embrace us,
Yes,
I tend to wonder, so what is this am I seeing on social media?
yeah, yeah,
That is why I come to the conclusion that the contention starts from the fans, not
yeah.
necessarily from the artists themselves.
Yeah. Well, it's a good and a bad with social media, that is, because
Mm.
social media has really helped, propel the sound of Bouyon, in
Right,
the international space. But of course, with that, you have a lot of opinions, and most people, and like I said, I was one of those that's and I says respectfully that might be ignorant to the history of the music.
right, right, right,
Will usually say, hey, it's so gone because of the similarities or patterns in the song.
right.
But if you look at the traditional, like you mentioned, the traditional route that Bouillon came from is a whole different,
It's a whole
yeah,
different angle.
whole different
You
angle.
understand? Whole different angle. Eventually,
Mm,
when I started, I mean, I started like doing this fusion of the traditional with the electronic at,
mm,
as I said, 11, 12, 13. I
yeah,
started doing it around that at that age.
mm,
And eventually, when I started to really go out and hear the influences, hear the different genres like soca, even
yes,
Kadas, I wasn't open to Kadas music until I got older.
okay, okay,
You understand? And
mm,
that is when I started to learn about Kara's music. And
mm,
one of my mentor, who has now passed, he was one of the keyboardists of Exile One, who
yes,
created
exactly,
Kara's music. So I got a lot of influence after the fact.
after the fact. Um,
So in some songs that I may have produced, you'd
mhm,
hear a little soca vibe in there and stuff like that. Because I always used to say soca music is the jump and wave, super blue kind of vibe.
yes, yes,
That's what
yeah,
I grew up to with soca
yeah,
music, Super
yeah,
Blue and so on. It eventually became Ecstatic and
mhm,
and
yeah,
these
yeah,
guys. And Bouyon music is a more chipping kind of style music.
yeah.
So there was a very distinct difference between the two genres.
One thing I'm trying to understand, and of course, you're the perfect person to help me understand this. Bouillon music, right? Why did it seem like it? So, okay, let me start with this. So, in Dominica, the prominent language is English. Am I
It's
correct?
English, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Bouillon music, it seemed like a lot of countries or islands like Guadeloupe, French
Right.
Guyana, Martinique, which speaks French.
French, right.
Yeah. Why is it seem like they gravitate to the Bouillon song? Is it because it has like a a compa type thing. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
You see, I mean, there are so many ways of looking at it, but you
Yes,
see, when it comes to Guadeloupe and Martinique,
yes.
they're very traditional and they're deep into their culture. And
Mm,
because of the roots of Bouyon music, it was
yeah.
easy for them to relate to
Relate
it.
to it. Okay, okay,
You
great.
know, and even the,
Mm,
the the kind of rhythms that we would have made with Bouyon music, they could relate to it because it was still the traditional, you
okay.
know, and seeing that they were just across the waters and seeing that
Yeah.
there was that influence or that handshake beat with Kadas music, with the
Yes.
artists going to and from Guadeloupe,
Mm,
Martinique, France, and stuff like that. So
right,
you
right.
had that kind of influence there. So it was easy for them to gravitate to it,
Okay,
you
makes sense.
know?
Makes a whole lot of sense. All right, nice. I'm glad you break that down. All right, so let's talk about WCK. How that band came together and your involvement in the band. Of course, WCK stands for Windward.
No, no.
No,
WCK stands for Walkers, Cornell, and Keith.
wow. See, man, thanks for the corrections. So where does Windward Caribbean culture came from? Somebody
Okay,
just put that out there.
when the band started to blow up,
Uh huh.
Walkers, Cornell, and Keith, who would stand for the original members of the band.
Okay.
Walkers, W,
Uh huh.
Cornell, C, K, Keith.
Okay,
All right,
makes
these were
sense.
the three original members of the band. So that's where
Yes.
they would the acronym Cornell and Keith, UCK.
Okay.
But when we really started to blow up, we would go on radio interviews and people would ask us, what is the meaning of WCK?
Right.
And we found that the names were a little shallow. So we
Mm,
wanted to give it a more broader name. So we came up with the idea of Windward Caribbean Culture, and culture
okay.
spelled with
Start
a
with a
K
K.
in our Creole dialect.
All right, good, good. I
All
got
right.
nervous there, man. I got nervous. I'm like, okay, well, what?
So
No,
that's
it's
where
like
it
a wrong
came
approach.
about. But to be honest, it didn't stick.
It didn't stick
It didn't stick. At least not to us in Dominica.
in Dominica because they went
People
to
always
yeah,
regarded WCK as Walker's Cornell and Keith.
right,
And
right,
the
right.
fact that we were right there, we were right
Yeah,
there in this small community. The three of us are right there. So
right,
they would
right.
all they more gravitated to Walker's Cornell and Keith rather Windward Caribbean Culture.
Makes sense, makes sense, makes sense. All right. So the band was formed in 1988. Tell me, in those early years, what was it like, for you guys?
Okay, well, I'll tell you how it all started. I mentioned earlier that my brother had a song system.
Yes.
And my best friend, Keith Goddard, who is the bass player of WCK,
Mm,
and myself, we would, after school, we would come to the home. He herself lived just up the road from where I live right now.
okay.
And he was from a musical family also, because even his uncle he was the keyboardist for one of the bands, one of the Kadas bands during the Kadas era,
Okay.
Liquid Ice. So
Mm,
after school, we would always come to 77 Bath Road, right here. We would come to 77 Bath Road,
yes.
where my brother had a song system. I had a keyboard that I borrowed from a friend of mine, and he played guitar and keyboard. Keith played guitar and keyboard. So we would be on this little toy Casio keyboard, and we'd be playing with
Wow.
beats and stuff like that.
I haven't done it in a long time. Casio keyboard, the small ones. Wow.
Yeah, these small keyboards. And then we used to have, I don't know if you know of that, we used to have school events and we used to call them tea parties,
Yes, yes, the tea parties. Yeah, yeah.
fundraisers for the
Tea
schools and
parties,
stuff.
bazaars and things. Yeah.
Right,
Mm,
right. And then they would hire my brother's song system to go and play at these tea parties at the school that we went to, St. Mary's Academy.
yeah.
And we would go and we would play, we would go. You remember that song, Budabai, 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 Budabai,
Yeah,
Budabai,
man.
number one.
Yeah,
So
Johnny
Keith
Osborne.
would be on the bed, do 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 doom doom, and I'd be
Okay.
bang bang on the other side of this small keyboard, and
Yes.
people were like wowed to
Mm,
see these two little boys doing these things, and then
yes.
things started to evolve. Ashton eventually bought me. Well, Ashton bought Keith a bass
Mm,
guitar. It
okay.
was supposed to be a guitar,
Yes.
but when we got it, we saw that it only had four strings, and
Mm,
then we were wondering why it didn't have any of the frets.
right, right.
We didn't know
Was
what it was
missing.
called at the time, but we found it
Yeah,
looked strange,
yeah.
and then only to find out it was a fretless bass. So seeing that Keith had that, he started to learn to play the bass. And then my brother Irvin, a bass guitar. Well, we said that already. And
Yeah.
then my next brother, Irvin
Mm,
Phillip, bought me a keyboard,
okay.
right? And then we started to play at things like private parties, weddings, and stuff like that. And then things started to blow up.
Right.
Now, I'm going to have a lot of name calling
Hey,
in the family.
it's all good, man.
Um, right. So now, Irvin was the keyboardist for a band that was no longer playing live,
Okay.
right? And but these guys were still close friends.
Yes.
So he being my bigger brother, he told Keith and myself, "Yo, come to this place in the middle of Roseau," and he just told us to come.
Right.
Just come there at this time. So when we went there, we met with four other guys. I think it was I think it was four other guys, and that is when we started to talk about putting a band together.
Okay.
Right? There was no mention of WCK. There's no, I mean, it was just the idea. Let us come together and see
Mm-hmm.
what we can come up with.
Yeah.
And then we didn't have equipment, so the only people that were playing were still Keith and myself. And there was the drummer, there was Peter, Tony Detush,
Okay.
we never got drums because it was the most difficult thing to get. It was the
Mm.
heaviest, it was the biggest, it was the most expensive at the time. So we
Yes.
never really got that drummer, but I always make mention of him when giving that story. Tony
Okay.
Detush. Never
Mm.
forget that name.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we had Derek Peters, who's also known as Ra,
Okay.
was
Yes. Right. Yeah.
percussion and
Mm-hmm.
lead vocalist.
Yeah.
And you had Walkers, who played guitar, and you had Irvin, who played keyboard.
Okay.
But we didn't have instruments, but Keith and I still continued to play. And
Mm.
then Walkers eventually got a guitar,
Yeah.
and the three of us started to play, and then we were playing for all kind of different things. And then there
Mm.
was the national radio station, DBS Radio. They
Okay.
had a song competition called the
Mm.
DBS Courtesy Song Competition, and they needed
Yes.
a band, they needed live accompaniment.
Okay.
So they asked us to play for that,
Mm.
and whilst we were practicing, they asked for the advertising, and so they asked, "What's the name of the band?"
Right.
And we were like, "We don't have no name, we just playing music right now."
Right. Right.
And a friend of ours who happened to be there, two friends of ours who happened to be there, Franklin Moses and Tim Dura, they came
Mm.
up with the idea of Wackers, Cornell and Keith, WCK.
Okay. Okay. Straight
And
up.
that just stuck. We just said loosely, "Yeah, fine, let's do it, let's go with it," not
Yeah.
knowing that that is where we'll be today.
Mm.
And so that was the birth of WCK, and
WCK.
that was before 1988.
Wow.
1988 was when we actually released our first album,
Yes. One more sway.
One More Sway. But
Yeah.
before that, that was released for Independence in November
Okay.
of that year. But before that, we recorded our first single, Music Suite, for Carnival. So that was in
Oh yes.
February,
Yes.
earlier that year.
What was
So
what was that feeling like after doing a recording and then hearing the music independently from actually playing
if
it?
you know me, I'm
Yeah.
somebody who downplays everything.
Yeah.
I'm not somebody who's so jovial
Yeah.
and so excited, gets so excited. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
proud moment for me, I will say.
Yes.
You know, but before that, though,
Well,
WCK wasn't.
the reason I'm asking that question because I'll tell you why. For musicians listen to music with a critical ear. And a lot of times when they record music and they listen to it, sometimes the reception is a little different to the untrained person. To them, it's just music and it's vibes. But to you, it's a whole different way that you're taking in the song compared to playing it live. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what, sir. I'll tell you what. At that time, I was very much into music technology. So my excitement actually came from the fact that I could program a drum machine, I could press
Mm.
play, I could mix the song.
Yeah.
I love that kind of vibes.
Yes, yes, yeah. The production
And
side.
right, the production. And by the time I really got to there, I was already into that kind of vibe.
Yeah, yeah.
Because growing up, when people started to hear of what we were doing, we actually would get called upon by calypsonians to come and play in
Mm.
the studio.
Okay, okay.
So I was still in probably first, second, third form when
Mm.
I was brought into the studio to play lead parts on a song and
Yes.
and stuff like that, and
Nice.
produce and things like that. So
Mm.
even before WCK recorded his first song, we were
Mm.
already versed with the studio vibes.
Yes, yes,
If
yes.
you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it was an achievement. I guess I was excited, I
Yeah,
even now I trying to downplay myself. I guess I was excited because I did
yeah,
sing the first song we recorded, Music Suite. I
yes.
wrote and sang the song.
Okay.
And I mean, it was just the fact that we could accomplish
Why
it
you
came
guys are
from a very
official?
passionate.
Yeah.
What is that?
Now, at this point, you guys are official.
It was sort of, it was without us knowing it was probably a movement because
Yeah.
we were bringing the traditional was almost gone,
Mm.
with the youth. The youth couldn't relate to the traditional rhythms of Dominica,
Yeah. Yeah.
in the early 80s. And we brought that back, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, I totally
So,
understand where you're coming from.
so we
But
took
at that
the
time, and like I said, I'm just drawing a picture because I grew up in the Caribbean as well. So
right.
around that time, I'm assuming at that time, early 80s, they had a heavy influence of dancehall
Dancehall,
and
exactly,
early hip hop, at least.
exactly.
Yeah.
Hip hop. I
Mm.
mean, we were big on Steel Pulse and
Yeah. Yeah.
and Third World and these
Yeah.
bands. You understand?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I get
know.
it. I get it.
So Byron Lee and the
Yeah.
Dragonaires, all
Yes.
these
Yes.
guys. You understand? So. So it
Mm.
was, to me, eventually I started to tell people that WCK had a mission to
Mm.
revitalize our culture.
Yes. Yes.
And we could have easily eventually gone into the jump and wave,
Right.
but
Right. Right.
we stuck to the traditional, rhythms, and Dominican, the younger folks started to gravitate to it because we took it from the organic and we made it
Yes.
more interesting by putting it in the electronic.
Yeah. Modernize.
Modernize,
Yeah.
and that is when people ask me what Bouyon music is, I
Mm.
tell them Bouyon music is the modernization of the traditional rhythms of
Mm.
Dominica.
Nice. Nice. Makes
Simply
sense.
put, you
Yes.
understand?
Makes sense.
So when we did these songs, and even
Mm.
Mopsy One More Sway, we had Dominica We Love You, which was a
Yeah.
tribute to Dominica because it was our 10th year of independence. So it was a big thing for us, and everything was traditionally oriented.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And that is what it was.
Mm.
That was the goal, and the fact that people will gravitate into it, it made us stick to it. If we were
Mm.
failing, probably we
Yeah.
would have gone a different direction. But
Yeah.
it
Like
was
Medicine Kitchen.
something was happening. Something was
Yeah.
definitely happening.
Nice. Nice. What was the first place you guys toured outside of Dominica as a band, basically?
Uh, I don't know exactly where was the first
Mm.
place we toured, but I know we started to go to New York by the early 90s, 91,
Okay.
92, 93. We started to go to
Mm.
New York.
Okay. Okay.
And we would go there every summer and we would tour and we'd go off season. Labor Day would be on the road, Labor Day,
What was that?
and that.
What was that experience like? The first time
Mm,
in New York doing those tours.
it
Did you
was,
guys realize? Did you guys realize there was actually a market outside of Dominica that would
you see,
accept your music?
to me personally, I was very young. I
Yeah.
was very young. I was still like in my mid-teens, so I didn't really understand what was going on.
Take
I
a
I
bit.
cannot say that I fully understood
Yeah.
the gravity of the situation. So I would go, I would play my music. It was
Yeah.
probably all about the girls at the time
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Music business was the furthest thing away from my
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
But the fact that we could go out there and we could play for our niche market was the small islanders.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
St.
Mm,
Thomas, Antigua,
mm,
Dominica, St. Lucians,
yeah.
the Burning Flames,
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
we used to play a lot with these bands and so on. And it was a nice feeling to see that we could bring our culture out there and it was accepted out there because
Yes.
we didn't follow the status quo.
Yes. Yes.
And people loved us for that. So I like the
Mm,
fact, I always appreciated the fact that we took Dominica out of Dominica, if you
yes.
understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. Nice.
We took that
Mhm.
experience out there.
Yeah. All right. So you talked about this, and I will bring it up as well. Of course, now Bouyon music, as Jamaicans would say, a bus mainstream,
It
which is a
was
good thing.
mainstream.
Yeah, but mainstream. But of course, with that, generation has changed, and the context of the music somewhat
Right.
has changed. Now you have a lot of younger artists, and you have some artists tend to go into the more what we call the kind of a slack version. I would
Nasty
say
business.
nasty
We call
business.
it nasty business.
That's the one I'm looking for. Nasty business. Nasty business. Now, the bad thing about nasty business, of course, it limits the genre.
The
Most of the,
reach.
the reach. But at the same time, it builds, a form of curiosity and like, hey, you hear this song, buddy? This kind of thing.
I think I can't deny the fact that Nasty
Mm.
Business is one of the main reasons why Bouyon music is where it is today. It is a fact. I cannot deny that.
Yeah.
Nasty Business is about the lyrics. It's not about the music. I totally respect anything musical that these guys do, be it simple, be it complex. I respect it.
Yeah.
That kind of music has its place. But what I always tell the guys even when they come here to rehearse, I tell them, as a musician, as an artist, we have a responsibility to uplift everything that comes out from our mouth. It's supposed to uplift.
Yes.
That is the responsibility of a musician. The musician, I think, is the most powerful person on earth. All right? More powerful than any of these politicians, because you still need the music to aid you with your big events and stuff like that. You need the
very influential.
entertainment.
Yeah.
You understand? So
Mhm.
I always believe that whatever comes out from your mouth as an artist should be positive. I am totally against the fact that we tend to degrade women to the point where the women even embrace it now. And I look at myself and I'm saying, what are we doing to our society? Where are we going? And some people will tell you that's how it is now. And we accept these kind of things that are happening in the world today. And it honestly bothers me.
Yeah.
Some people say that Nasty Business has its place and this and that and that. I agree it has its place, but its place is a private place.
Yeah.
You understand?
Mhm.
I mean, the reason why it is underground, just think of it. Why is it underground? Because it's not suitable for above board.
Yeah, mainstream, yeah.
You understand? So I don't know. It is I really don't know how to look at it. It obviously has done a lot for Bouyon music, but I ask myself that question. Okay, we did Balance Batty in 1995.
Yes.
Balance Batty is still current today. So I wonder if 30 years later, if any of these Nasty Business songs will be current.
So you think Bamsi Business was like the precursor to Nasty Business?
No, I don't think so. I
Okay.
mean, it didn't have anything to do. But what I'm saying is that it's still a song that you can Balance Batty is a song that you can play any time of day.
Yeah.
So before, when you go online and you probably put on a YouTube playlist of Bouyon music, you could just play that on a Sunday and have no problem. Today, I have to look to see what songs are there before I play it in my home.
Yeah.
You understand? Now, that is not a good reflection, because music is universal. Music's supposed to be played anywhere at any time.
Yeah.
And it is not, we talking Bouyon music right now, but it's not only Bouyon music. We're talking about rap. We're talking about, all genres is just the way of the world right now. You understand?
Well, to be fair, one of the biggest Beyond songs right now, as you know, is Someone Else.
Right, exactly. And it's not a Nasty Business.
And it's not a Nasty Business. So
You understand? But I think that song made it because of, obviously the lyrical content. Everybody could relate to it.
Yes.
And it wasn't, there was no reason for it to be censored in any way or form.
Yeah.
So it had to carry. It had to carry. And the artists, even when I talk to the younger artists today, I don't call them Nasty Business artists. I call them Bouyon artists.
Yes.
Who choose to sing that kind of lyrical content. But even their biggest songs are not Nasty Business.
Yes.
You understand? Their biggest songs, and some of them trying to change it, but they have to, for them to remain current because of the world of today, they have to, they still have to do a little thing every now and then. But I am of the hope that things will settle down and we'll get back to good, palatable music.
Yeah, fair enough. What's one artist, it's a two-part question. What's one artist from Dominica who you believe, whether we call old school or, really did a lot for Dominica that most people don't know about, or you feel like never really got their flowers, Because a lot of time we know the mainstream. Yeah, I know it wasn't expecting this question. It just came to mind. There'll be mainstream names, but sometimes there's always one artist or a couple could be that most people don't really know about, but they deserve to get some form of recognition.
Trust me, there are a lot of artists out there, My wife did a thing, Carlin
Yeah.
XP did a thing, but we kind of we are family oriented
Yes.
couple,
Hmm.
married couple, and we have
Yeah.
2 children. I have 4 children. So
Okay.
that has kind
Nice.
of taken priority right now,
Yeah.
with her.
Mm.
But she has a lot of good music out there. Even I even get probably surprised when certain people call me.
Yeah.
And we go on tour and stuff like that. There are so many artists, boy, oh boy.
Mm.
You see, you put me in a spot because if I call one and do call the other is a problem.
Well, I mean,
But
true,
one
but
thing,
listen. Remember, you asked me in the beginning. I don't write down questions for reasons like these. I just,
right,
we
right,
having a
right,
conversation. It came to mind. I like, listen. I never been to Dominica. I'm sure there's a lot of history there. I'm sure there's artists that you know so I'll give you a prime example. So I'm from Trinidad originally, and
right,
there's a lot of talent in Trinidad, but we know the big names, of course, the Marshalls, the Cats, and so forth. But
right,
there's a
right.
lot of other artists that's even old school that a lot of people might know of, that I
Man,
believe in my opinion have contributed well to to calypso and soca. One of the names that I personally like, or personally that I believe don't get enough recognition is two people. I would say David Rudder, in my opinion. I feel like a lot of young people don't really recognize David Rudder and the contribution that he made to the
right, right,
culture.
right.
And of course, the creator of soca, Raj Shorty. I say this all the
Right,
time. I
short,
feel
yeah.
like Raj Shorty, I don't
Mhm.
really get his due respect. For
I get where you're coming from.
being credited
I
for
get where you're
creating
coming
soca.
from.
So that's what
Because
I
I
personally
mean,
think.
it's funny you mentioning that because when you first started to ask the question, my mind came on Ra, because Ra had
Yeah, like I said, Raj Shorty. And then that's
right.
my take.
Because when you started to ask me the question, one
Mm.
person came to mind, which was Ra, Derek Peters.
Yes, yes.
Because Ra had a way of penning songs which Dominicans could relate to. He would use
Mm.
certain dialect and he'd use certain phrases that he would use that were Dominican
Yeah.
that really helped propel the Dominican culture outside there. So I definitely give him that.
Okay.
I definitely give him that. And when it comes to the younger artists, I mean there are some of them that blowing up out there.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of them in Dominica that share the stage equally,
Mm.
and I think the nasty business, it kind of keeping them back.
Yeah. Yeah.
The beats mesmerizing. You understand? Simple as
Yeah.
it may be, but it have
Yeah.
that kind of vibe
Yeah.
inside
Yeah.
there. And if
Yeah.
you drop a thing on that, come on, man, the sky's the limit.
Well, everything is a balance. So everything is a balance.
Yeah. So the artist, I think, is not an even playing field, but
Mm.
there's room for all of us, and I think all of us trying to get to the highest spot that we can possibly get to.
Yeah. All right. Well, this part of the podcast is called 2,000 questions about me. It's based on a book that I bought a couple of years ago. I'm not going to ask you 2,000 questions, obviously. So I'm going to ask you to pick a number from 1 to 2,000. And the number that you pick will be the question that's asked out of the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah, man. 1 to 2,000.
1,300.
1,300. All right. I need to get a Jeopardy soundtrack now. Yeah. All right. I just got it. 1,300. Okay. One boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I'm already in the 40s. All right. Here we go. 30. Okay. Do you believe change is a good thing? Do you believe change is a good thing?
Of course, change is a good thing. We tend to shy away from change, but change is inevitable. You cannot
Yeah.
run away from it.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice but to embrace it. And
Mhm.
change is what makes you excel, what makes you better,
Yes.
what makes you develop. Yeah, if you stay in the same thing, doing the same thing all the time, you'll
Mm.
never grow, you'll never develop.
Yes.
So that
True.
is why you step out of the box and you try new things. You might fail, you will succeed
Mhm.
eventually, and that is where the change comes in, and you start to elevate more and more and more. So
Yeah.
yes, I do believe in change.
Yeah. Yeah. Facts, man. Facts. Well, Mr. Philip, man, at this point, man, open the floor. Any last things you want to say before, we wrap it up?
Whenever I come on these interviews where a Trinidadian interviews a Dominican,
Yeah.
I am always so particular with my words.
Nah, man. Well,
You
listen,
know,
before
no,
you
no, no,
continue,
no, no. I'm not. I not. not because of I am skeptical about what you might ask me,
Yeah.
but is the thing you said earlier, the misconceptions and the things that have been going on, and I just want to reestablish that what I said earlier, that I respect all genres of music,
Yes. 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 Mm.
and we all have our history.
Yes.
And just because I say something that does not complement your story, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm saying something against your story.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You understand? So I wish that people would get that. I wish that people would get that. Let us agree that we similar but we unique, and we very unique, and we so much apart, yet we together.
Yes. Yes.
And that makes us so powerful. And if we embrace that, if we only embrace that, we would reach so much further.
Yeah.
And that kind of bickering about, and I mean, I have done interviews, and fellas cut up my interview and put it
Uh,
to their own storyline,
yeah.
their own narrative and stuff. I just wish that we
Mm.
would just agree that the Caribbean, we all want people, but we separated by water.
Yeah.
The fact that we separate by water makes us unique in our own way. And that is a plus for us as Caribbean people. That is a plus for us as
Mm.
Caribbean people. I mean, you know how many genres we have as Caribbean? If we call ourselves Caribbean people, you know how many genres of music we have?
Yeah, it's a lot. Listen, I'm learning every day. Every day when I think I know, I don't know nothing. I know shit.
So I just want people to learn to accept that we unique, and
Mm,
being unique is one of our biggest strengths.
yeah,
And the fact that we can probably come together and put up a unified front, and we have this big wall that
mm,
anybody want to penetrate, they have to go through that thick wall, and we have all kind of different, sauces, like it's a bouillon.
yeah, yeah. We will
Because
chill out.
a bouillon is a mixture
Yeah, yeah,
in well, not only Dominica, but in other places in the Caribbean, a bouillon is
yes,
a mixture of food. You understand? So it's like we strong together. We
mm,
different, but we
yeah,
are the strongest together.
yes,
And let
yes,
us come together, and let us push each other. Let us uplift each other.
yeah. Well, I'm really glad that you highlighted that, man, and to your point that you just mentioned that he did an interview and unfortunately people cut up for their own,
Yeah.
social media hype or whatnot. And the thing about that, honestly, as a podcaster, I've been doing this for a long time. My background started way back as a DJ and
Right.
radio and all that stuff. So I know the little tricks of the trade. The thing is, it makes it hard for people who really want to, share their story because sometimes they really can't trust the platform that they go on because for their own put. People do things. Trust me, I get the whole
Yep.
story about,
Because
yeah, people like, man,
you asked me that
mm,
question there, and my mind came on
mm,
something that happened specifically
mm,
where a guy said, like, two guys were on a podcast, and they were like dissing Bouyon music, and the guy said, "Nigga,"
yeah,
and I was like, "Yo, you taking that further."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
No, no,
understand? And I
respect,
didn't
man.
have a I didn't have a problem that how is that you're not accepting
Mm,
Bouyon for Bouyon, you're accepting Bouyon for Soca. I didn't have much of a problem with that, but you took
mm,
it further by bringing in these terms and this
yeah,
and that, and we don't realize how damaging we can be.
yeah, yeah,
And they came and they wanted to have an interview with me, and I honestly didn't entertain that interview.
yeah, yeah,
Because I mean, come on, man. Why do we do these things? Why do we bring down each other? Let us agree to disagree
yeah,
and move on. Respect my opinion, I respect your opinion, but you just can't come and just say things and, baseless, statements, and you have
mm,
nothing to fall back on, and that's that. Just because you have a mic, you have a mic and a camera,
yeah,
and nobody can touch you. You figure you can just say what you want. We have to be
yeah, yeah,
responsible with what we do.
yeah. A lot of irresponsible
You know?
podcasters out here, but
Yeah.
we take pride in what we do. Yeah, one thing about me, man, like I said, I am born and raised in Trinidad. I live in the U.S. now, but I always pride myself as a Caribbean person.
Right.
I've been blessed to travel to many different islands, and my goal is to travel to each and every one. And as I travel, I always want to learn because I'm always learning so much when I go to these different places.
Right.
And kudos to you, man, for really taking time out to sit down and
Yeah, man.
look and really. Listen, from the first time I met you, I done got the vibe. You're just cool. Ladies and gentlemen, I met Mr. Phillip at an event here. And big up dear Miguel, here in Baltimore. And I was at the event, great event. Energy was lovely, and I say, man, I gotta meet Mr. Phillip because prior to that, I'd sent out some requests for your contact, and
Okay.
yeah, needless to say, they say, well, I know you're gonna be in Silver Spring and so on. So I say, yeah, all right, cool, I'll be there. So anyway, I saw you doing your thing on the stage. I said, man, I just waited for the perfect time to catch you. And then I'm outside Lyman, and all of a sudden I look around, I see you sitting there just chilling. I said, oh, man, but I definitely appreciate you being humble and down to earth and really telling the story, and
Yeah.
of course your contribution to the arts and culture for putting Dominica on the map, and I could truly say, man, you're doing a great job representing not just Dominica but the Caribbean on the whole.
The
So with that, I
Caribbean.
definitely
Caribbean.
want to extend my thanks and gratitude.
Yeah, man. Anytime.
Mhm.
And come to Dominica. I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to find
yeah.
out what's happening over the weekend. I don't want you to come at
Mhm.
a time when nothing is happening.
Yeah.
I know
Well,
I'm traveling next weekend.
Well, no, it's not gonna be that soon. I gotta put my passage money together. Ain't gonna be that soon. But I definitely would like to come for Creole Fest though. You see that's in October?
That's in October. That's on
Yeah.
the last weekend of October.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely
If
my
you want to know what's going on, go dominicafestivals.com.
all right, DominicanFestivals.com.
Yeah.
All right.
And the lineup is already on there, so
Mm,
you'll see what's going on. And the week before the festival, I always tell people to come at least a week before the festival because
mhm.
there's a thing called Village Creole,
Yes.
where is a free, well, $5 to get in, but it's like
Mm,
every day from Monday to Thursday.
yes.
And you just go to the park and there's music, there's food,
Mm,
there's everything Dominica is
culture.
like that. Culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Live performances and everything like that. And that is, if you want to get a true sense of what Dominica is about, that
Mm,
is the perfect time for that.
nice.
The week before the Creole Festival, leading
Mhm.
up into the Creole Festival.
All right, nice. Well, Mr. Phillips, man, give thanks once again and much success moving forward and
Thank you.
keep up the good work.
Thank you, man. Yeah, man. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, respect.
Uh,
And that's a wrap on this episode of the AlonzoBash Podcast. Thank you for tuning in and rocking with us. If you enjoyed today's conversation, leave a comment and let us know your favorite episode so far. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to help the podcast grow. You can catch the AlonzoBash Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and even on Amazon Alexa devices. Just ask Alexa to play the AlonzoBash Podcast. Until next time, stay inspired, stay connected, and as Alonzo would say, stay focused on your goals and dreams. See you on the next episode.